Well, hello everybody. It's Danny back from Deep South Homestead. Guys, we're sitting here today. I'm using the podcast mic and all that I have. We're back in the cabin because there's so much noise outside with the cicadas, with the wind. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on outside. So we thought we would try the Rode mic with the podcast system, running my voice through it, and see if it makes a difference. Now, it may not, but we're going to see. But anyway, it's been a damp, wet start to the week. One of the things that we're sitting here actively watching right now is we have this system that's moved up out of the Bay of Campeche. Coming up through Houston, coming up this way. I'm sure we're going to get some rain out of it. But as this system comes up in here, they're talking about we're going to get a bunch of rain. Now, we're a little bit dry right now, and that's okay because we actually do need some rain. As y'all know who's been watching us, we've had the birth of a new addition to our homestead here. Dixie, our Dexter cow, or one of our Dexter cows, actually had a newborn little heifer. We have called her Betty. She's doing fantastic right now. Dixie's being a good mother to her. Guys, there's a lot going on, but today's those videos that I don't like having to make. But if somebody doesn't make them, then nobody will ever hear. And in this video today, I'm probably going to get a lot of flack because of it, but I really don't care because it's the truth. And if it's the truth, then it's the truth. But the subject I want to look at today, and I want to mention today, and I talked about this on our live stream the other night. Does God hate America? Now, that's a very bold statement to make. Does God hate America? Now, I'm not talking about the individual believers that are within the country. I'm talking about the nation as a whole. And how can we determine whether God hates America or not? Well, there is actually a particular passage in the Bible that tells us what God really hates. And I think today a lot of preachers have fallen short of actually getting the accurate message out to people. Because if you go to churches today, pastors have a weird way of trying to hold a congregation and to grow a congregation. And I'm sad to say this, but a lot of it has to do with fear tactics. Now, I know me personally, growing up, my mom and not my dad, but mainly was my mother. If I'd done anything, my mother used fear to try to keep me in line. And I determined I would never do this with my children. If I did something, my mom would be like, "You better watch it. God's going to strike you dead if you do that. If you don't straighten your life up, God's going to strike you dead, boy." And I grew up having this mentality that God was this giant person up there with a stick ready to smack me over the head every time I'd done something wrong. And I really was very resentful. I didn't want to go to church. I mean, I didn't want to do anything because I thought God hated me. And my mom was trying to use these fear tactics to keep me in line. Now, believe me, I got my butt tore up. I got whipped every day of my life. And literally, and if my mom was here today, she would tell you that. And she would laugh when she was telling you that. She would say, "He probably did something I didn't see, so I whipped him anyway." And I'll be honest with you, I didn't get enough whippings because I still done things I shouldn't have done. It didn't break me like I should have been broken. But the thing about it is, I said all that to say this. We can't allow fear to dominate our lives. We've got to stand on sound moral principles in this country if we're ever going to have any kind of normalcy. It'll be a new normal. It'll never be like it was. What we call the good old days, they're gone, and that's never coming back. I mean, we just have to accept that, and we have to be able to move on and say, you know what, it is what it is. We've dropped the ball, and because we've dropped the ball, now we've allowed evil to get a foothold, and nobody seems to want to do anything about it. I mean, that's the bottom line. Nobody wants to do anything about it. Everybody's scared to stand up and be heard because they're afraid of what might happen to them. Well, guys, this past week, decisions were made from the executive office of this country that took mine and your constitutional rights away from us, more than they've ever been taken. We entered into an era of communism. We're no longer free. As a matter of fact, the leader of this free country stood up and said, this is not about your freedom. Your freedom has nothing to do with this. And that's where I want to go today. I want us to stop and just take a moment here, and I want us to examine what happened this past week. Now, several things took place this past week. We had the anniversary of 9/11, which was more of a memorial, a solemn day, remembering all those that fell, that risked their lives to rescue other Americans. Guys, that was what America was about. Other Americans stepping in to help other Americans. No fear, running into the fire to get other Americans. That was patriotism. It was cold-hearted what was done to us. I do believe it was an inside job. I don't believe it was outside. I believe our own country done it to us. I'm not going to argue that point with anyone. I have a lot of proof that I could show, but that's not what this video is about. It's sad that our demise began. What that done was that invoked the Patriot Act that George Bush did, and it gave the military the rights to operate on American soil in collaboration with local law enforcement, is what it done. That was what they were looking for, was the beginning of what we're seeing now is the military being able to operate on our own soil and have the authority to do it. Now, why would they do that? Because we're headed into an agenda. There's several agendas. There's Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, Agenda 2050. They have all these things that they want to have done by specific times so that they can actually rule the world. This new world order, or how shall we say it, the Great Reset. Now, if y'all watched my live stream this past Saturday night, you saw me as I began to get riled up a little bit and started talking about certain things. They throttled me back because of the algorithm that is out there, throttled me back and began to buffer me so that no one could hear what I was saying. And I did it several times just to prove to the audience that was watching me that they were doing it, so that there would be no question about what I was saying was affecting the algorithm of that live stream. Every word we say is being monitored. AI is monitoring every word, and the algorithms are causing it to where people can't hear what we say, or they'll pull the video down, they'll do something. Everything we do and or say is being recorded. because they have an agenda. Now, with all of that being said, does God hate America? Well, we're going to look at a passage in the Bible. And a lot of y'all don't like to hear the Bible, but I don't care because it's what we have to go by. You may not believe it. I don't care if you believe it or not. When we get to the end, it says every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. Everyone will give an account for what you did here upon this earth. And a lot of people go, well, I don't believe the Bible, so I'm not worried about it. That's fine. But for those of us who do believe it, we have just as much right to believe it as you have not to believe it. We don't try to stop you from not believing it. So why do you try to stop us from believing it? Just leave us alone. Does God hate America? I want us to look at a passage, and I want you to not take my word for this. I want you to look it up. I want you to look up Proverbs chapter 6, verses 16 through 19. 6 things doth the Lord hate, yea, 7 are an abomination to him. So there's 7 things that's mentioned in these passages right here that the Bible says God hates them. But the 7th one makes it an abomination to him. Now, what are these things? What are these things here that we're talking about? The first thing that's mentioned in Proverbs 6:16, is a proud look. Now, I don't care where you go in this country. All the elected officials have a proud look about themselves. They're all shoulders all kicked back, and they're all, haughty looking, and just, they talk down to everybody like we're peasants to them. God said, I hate that. I hate a proud look. And the thing that gets me about all this, you don't hear preachers talking about this. I'm going to sit here and tell you, I don't know in my life of being in church my entire life that I've ever heard a pastor preach on this particular passage. I've heard him preach on alcoholism, how God hates alcohol. I've heard him talk about how God hates rape. God hates drugs. I've heard all of those things in my life preached about. Now, those things are bad things. But I'm going to show you today that God doesn't mention any one of those things as being something he hates. Now, I don't condone any of them. I don't participate in any of them. I don't want nothing to do with any of the things I just mentioned. But God in his word does not say, I hate these things. And that's what preachers harp on. Because they're what's the norm of the day in which we live in, and they use it as a controlling factor to control a congregation of people. They preach to us that it's more worse for us not to show up every time the doors is open than it is to have a proud look. That is not true. That is out of the pit of hell. What is true is what thus saith the Lord. I hate a proud look. What's the second thing he mentions in that passage? I hate a lying tongue. I hate someone who tells lies. Well, let's just stop here a minute and let's see something. Excuse me. Let's go back to December of last year. President-elect stood up in a press conference or whichever one it was there, I don't remember exactly what it was. A reporter, he was fixing to walk off, and a reporter hollered at him and says, "Will you ever make the vaccine mandatory?" He turned around and looked at the microphone. He said, "No, I will never do that." What did he do this past week? He said, "I will pass an executive order. I will make it mandatory. If you work for the federal government, or if you work for a contractor that contracts for the federal government, if you work for any of those type systems like that, if you have over 100 employees, all this type of stuff in your company, I'm going to sign an executive order saying it's mandatory that you have to have this inoculation." He lied. He lied to the American people. Fauci, when he was asked, did the NIAC have anything to do with gain of function with this disease, he said no. And yet it was proven over and over. I sit and watch the Congress as they debated him. It was proven over and over he was lying, that there was a gain of function with the Wuhan laboratory, and he lied. Now, if you lie before Congress, you can go to prison. And then on top of that, you get a big fine. But have you ever seen one of these elected officials that lied that ever served one bit of time? If I was up there and I lied and was caught in perjury for raising my right hand and swearing to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God, they would send me to jail, but they turn a blind eye to their own. God hates a lying tongue. He hates a proud look. He hates a lying tongue. God hates hands that shed innocent blood is the third thing. What is innocent blood? It's an unborn child that never had a right to defend itself, that was taken and murdered. That innocent blood was shed. And it's all in the name of my body, my rights. What happened to that my body and my right when it comes to taking the inoculation from Pestilence 19? What happened to that? Is it still your body and still your right? Evidently not. So now we're picking and choosing what we have a right to and what we don't have a right to with our bodies. Or somebody's picking and choosing for us. That's where we're at. God hates people who shed innocent blood. I sit and watched the interview where our elected official that holds the highest office in this country stood up and said, "I support Roe versus Wade because I don't believe life begins at conception." God hates those who shed innocent blood. If America caused 9/11 on its own people and caused its own people to shed innocent blood, God hates that. He says so in his own words. God hates a heart that devises wicked imaginations. If all of this is true that's being told to us, that this virus that's running loose and running rampant was actually really a gain of function, which I believe it was. I believe it was a bioterror weapon that they released for the sole purpose of gaining control of the people, being able to sell an inoculant, and in that inoculant, being able to put the nanoparticles in there that when tied in with 5G technology that's fixing to come out or has already came out. In the near future, we'll be able to unlock those nanoparticles, turn them on and turn them off in your body and make you think and do what they want you to do. And the more times you get those extra inoculants, the more of that stuff you have in your body, the more they're able to turn you on and turn you off and make you think what you want to think. Now, you can believe that or not. I don't care. I've looked at too much data that leads me to believe that that could actually be true. They're swiftly. Noticed, now it says, the scripture says, a heart that devises wicked imaginations. They are trying to come up with a wicked way to control us through our imaginations or through their imaginations by injecting these nanoparticles into our bodies that will give them control over us. God says, I hate that. I hate that they're trying to come up with all these agendas. Their imaginations, their wicked imaginations to control the population for no good. God said, I hate it. I literally hate it. The next thing he says, I hate feet that are swift to mischief. When this inoculant that goes in here came out, what was one of the first things you heard? And Donald Trump even said this, and Joe Biden and all of them said the same exact thing. We're going to roll this out in a record pace of time. It was swift. They were swift to spread this mischief that they've put upon the American public and now upon the world. And America is actually helping to swiftly get it to all the rest of the world. God hates feet that are swift to mischief. It's just sad. God hates a false witness that speaks lies. A while ago we mentioned how that in December he said, I will never mandate this. Now he says, I'm going to make an executive order. We're going to mandate this. We found out in proof Anthony Fauci has lied. Everywhere you look, it's lies, lies, lies. Everything is lies. They're false witnesses. They're being brought before Congress to testify. They're witnesses. They're lying. All of them are lying. And you go, well, it's the Democrats. No, it's not the Democrats. It's the Democrats and the Republicans. It's just like I mentioned in my live stream the other night. The Republicans had control of the House and the Senate while for several years there, they did absolutely nothing. The Democrats grabbed control of the House and they have begun to launch and to push their agenda as much as they can. I sit and watch these pitiful Republicans go back and forth on the fence. Some of them voted this way, some of them voted that way. I sit and Wanda got plumb aggravated at me for sitting and watching the House hearings and all that kind of stuff and the votes and all that. And I watched how the Republicans teetered on the fence because they was afraid these people, they have lobbyists that help support me. And I got to be careful here because I'm liable to upset one of my lobbyists. You know, everybody goes, well, you got to be careful of the left wing. Let me tell you something. You got to be careful of the left wing. You got to be careful of the right wing because they're all on the same bird. And they're all up to no good. God said, I hate people who are swift to spread this type of mischief and who speak lies. I'm not the one saying this. This is the word of God that I'm telling you here. The last thing that's mentioned here, God said, I hate those who sow discord amongst the brethren. And what has this Pestilence 19 inoculation done? It has broken down families. It has broken up congregations of people. It has turned one American against another American. It has literally sowed discord amongst God's people. He said, what I hate. So you answer me. Does God hate America? I think he loves his people that keep his commands. And I think he watches over them. But as a nation, I think God hates America. Because the 7 things I just read to you, he said 6 things I hate, yea, the seventh one makes all of this an abomination before me. America right now has fit every one of the things I just read to y'all. The leaders of our country has met everything I just read to you. You tell me, does God hate America? My answer is yes. Is God's hand still on America? Go read Deuteronomy. The passages that deal with the blessings of obedience. Just Google it. Deuteronomy, blessings of obedience, blessings of disobedience, or curses of disobedience. Look it up, read them, and then you tell me if God's hand is still on America. I think you're going to find out God's hand's been off this country for a while. Now today, this video may get pulled. My channel may get pulled down. I don't know. But it is high time we quit standing around here like a bunch of panty-waist people, and we get up and we go ahead and say what we got to say. Let your voice be heard. Forget about the repercussions. A lot of people go, but I'm going to lose my job if I don't get the inoculation. Make them fire you. At least take a stand. You don't know how many times I got ridiculed over the past years on my channel, on Porch Time, and for doing the videos I've done, saying, get out of debt. There's something coming where you're not going to be able to have a job one day. You need your place paid for. You need to set up some money ahead so you can keep your taxes paid for years to come in advance. You need to do these things. And people looked at me and said, you're a nut. You're a tinfoil hat theorist. Where are we at today? We are there because we have chosen to be there. We're a nation that's in debt, who doesn't own anything anymore. Everything we have has been charged up to the hilt, and now they're looking at you, and they've got you over a barrel. They're doing exactly what I told you they was going to do. If you don't take the inoculation, you're not going to be able to have a job. You don't have a job, you're not going to have a roof over your head. You're not going to be able to put food on your table. All the things I've tried. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm just telling you what God told me years ago, and now it's coming to fruition. All of those that laughed at me and said I didn't know what I was talking about, well, that day has come. You've got to make a choice now. You've either got to be inoculated or you got to lose your job. I personally am not going to be inoculated. They may hold me down one day and do it to me, but out of my own free will, as long as I have perfectly good conscience, it ain't happening. Is it the mark of the beast? I don't actually think it's the mark of the beast. But I'll tell you what, I believe it's the first part of the mark of the beast. I believe in my own heart that the more of these inoculant boosters that they give you, they're going to eventually get you to a point to where they're going to release a superbug virus, and they're going to say the only way you're going to get out from under this is to take the mark. I believe there's a superbug coming that at some point is going to be devastating to human life. And they're going to look at you and say, if you don't take what we're fixing to give you, it will kill you. You won't be able to go anywhere. You're not going to be able to buy or sell anything. And guys, when that day comes, they're going to want us to fall down and worship a beast or an image. And a lot of you go, oh, but I'm going to be raptured out of here. I'm not going to argue that point with you. I'm going to pray you're right. I don't see that. I see it as being in the middle of the week, because the time of Jacob's trouble, the wrath of God, does not happen until the middle of the tribulation. And it is the bride of Christ is not appointed to wrath. I get that. But the wrath doesn't happen until the middle of the week. The first part of the week has got to be so good that he can lure everybody in through his suave de bonheur ways to make everybody fall for him. If everything was horrible and bad and crooked, people go, oh, this is a tribulation, I'm not going to do that. No, the first part of the tribulation will be actually easy. It's not till the middle of the week that he looks and says, now, this has been released into the people. You will either take it and you will worship me because I am the man who has got the cure for everything, or you will die. I believe at that point, yes, we could have the rapture. But not till then, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying I'm right. That's my version of it. You can believe what you want, and I will have no quarrel with you. I will pray that you're absolutely 100% right, because I would love for it to be that way. But I just don't see it. And guys, today, I just wanted Porch Time to be awakening to us. I wanted us to think about what's going on. Does God hate America? All indications is he does, because of Proverbs 6:16 through 19. It saddens my heart. It just really breaks my heart for my children and for my grandchildren. I mean, I'm old, and my days are going to be shortened up here pretty soon, and I know my outcome. But for my children and my grandchildren, my heart bleeds for them because of what they're going to have to face. And it should for you too. And that's why people like our age, we should all stand in the gap. We should all stand up. And when they come to our jobs and tell us we got to take this inoculation, we should say, no, you've got to fire me. I am not going to do it. If everybody would stand up and say, no, I'm not going to do it, we might get somewhere. But what really irritated me to no end is when he said, if the governors of this country don't fall in line, I'm going to remove them from office. That is communism. Do you want to live under a communist society? Under a dictator-type rule? If you do, you're not an American anyway. You need to leave here and go on over there where communism already is and join up over there and then live there for a while and come back and then tell me if that's what you really want to be. I'll guarantee you, once you're there for a while, it ain't going to work. This is exactly what Adolf Hitler did in Austria. He did it in Poland, and he done it in Germany. Exactly what's being done to us right now. That's why history is being erased and rewrote. So the younger generation coming back up doesn't know about those things. They will be fooled just like the people of Austria, Poland, and Germany, and all these places, Czechoslovakia, and all these places were tricked and led to believe this is the greatest thing that'll ever happen to them. Mark it down. If we don't change, it's going to happen here too. We are not too big to fail. Thank you guys from Deep South Homestead.